Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we thought we would take a new approach to finding out something about ourselves through a normal deck of cards. Now, most people, when they think about a normal deck of cards, they think about perhaps laying out and playing a game of solitaire if they're by themselves, or if they get a friend or several friends together, perhaps poker. But interestingly enough, there's a way that you can use a normal deck of cards to go a little bit further. It's the opportunity where you can find out what your personal time map is. Our guest joining us here on the program today is the creator that integrates a person's date of birth with universal laws structured in the ancient science of the standard deck of playing cards. It's a science that goes pretty far back in history, and we're going to find out more about that. So we're going to find out that there are far more to a deck of cards than just playing a simple game of poker. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program our guest, Reverend Thabiti. Reverend, how are you today?
Hello, and thank you for having me as a guest today on your show. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and we're glad to have you as a guest on our show today. Now, tell us what this is all about. How did all this start for you?
The time map system, as you accurately stated, integrates our date of birth with universal laws that govern existence, and it does it in a way that provides it's a tool that provides us with illuminated directional guidance or illuminated empowerment. But to answer your question, what happened was for me was I was a physics major in college. I majored in physics because I love to fix things, but you can't fix something until you first understand how does it operate. And so physics is a science that teaches how the universe operates and how to explain it mathematically. But then I minored in comparative religions, and in studying the great religions of the world, I was always fascinated with religion because of its powerful influence that it has on its followers. And so I became more interested in what do they have in common as opposed to their differences. And so in searching for the common denominator of religions, what happened was the word truth kept coming up. For example, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu scripture, says that the truth is triumphant and always prevails in the end. The Holy Quran says that the truth is eternal and everlasting, and the Holy Bible says the truth will set you free. So at that moment I realized, well, wait a minute, it's not religion that I'm seeking. Where does one find this truth? So during a poker game, it was high stakes, at least high stakes according to my budget. it was high stakes. And upon losing all my chips, the guy raking the chips toward himself said, the cards don't lie. Mm-hmm. And so here I am. I'm a self-proclaimed truth seeker, and I just studied all the religions of the world, and I heard that statement my whole life, that the cards don't lie. And so I did an investigation, into the standard deck of playing cards, and I just came across all of this amazing discovery. The first thing that I discovered was no matter where we go in the world, if we walk into a casino, we will see that they're all in agreement around one deck and one deck only. It's not tarot cards, it's not angel cards, but it's the standard deck of playing cards that attracts all the money. Why does it attract all the money? Because it has an age-old reputation for truthfulness that the cards don't lie. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I stumbled across was to discover that the standard deck of playing cards still remains the only scripture in existence that remains unrevised and unchanged, and that there still exists no authority anywhere on earth that can change the structure of this deck of playing cards. For example, what I mean by revised is the Bible has been revised many times. There's these different versions. If someone says, I read this in the Bible, you got to say, well, which version? Is it the Catholic version, Jehovah's Witness version, Mormon version, King James version? There's many versions. But with the deck of playing cards, there's only one version. And what this has to do with time maps, our date of birth, is that there are 52 cards in the deck representing the 52 weeks in the year. Oh. Then there's 12 face cards that which are the jacks, queens, and kings that represent our 12 months and the 12 a.m. and the 12 p.m. hours of the day. And then there's 4 suits that are hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades, which represent the 4 directions of time. Just like there's north, south, east, and west in space, there's hearts when we advance emotionally, clubs is when we advance mentally, diamonds is financially, and spades is spiritually. And so everyone is seeking to advance in at least one of these areas, if not all 4 of them. So upon this discovery, what happened was then the physics side of me came through, being a student of Einstein. You can't major in physics without being a student of Albert Einstein, who is most famous for proving the relationship between time and space. And so in his Law of Relativity, or mathematically stated, it means that it's E equals mc squared. But what that simply means to everybody who is listening is wherever we are, there's always the time we're there. Where we are, that's called a map of the United States. When we are, that's the time map system. Both of these maps work the same way, whereas both maps show us where we are and show us what to expect if we move in any direction, and both maps show us what our directional choices are. Except where the time map is different is it's a map of time as opposed to space, meaning that the time map does not involve places, the time map involves people. Because one of the most extraordinary features of the time map system, beyond its profound truthfulness and accuracy and reliability and dependability, is that every person who surrounds you right now, or the people who get the most of your time and attention, are all located and identified on your time map by their birthday, along with the experience that's happening from your point of view. So how it works in understanding the concept of a map is, a map of the United States says, if you go north, Canada will come into your future. If you go south, Mexico is what you can expect. Your time map tells you, if you go with this lawyer, you're going to lose your case. If you go with this lawyer, you're going to win your case. If you go with this stockbroker, you're going to have financial trouble. If you go with this stockbroker, you're going to have financial success or financial satisfaction. If you move in the direction of this love interest, you're going to have disappointment. If you move in the direction of this love interest, you're going to have emotional success. So the way it works with both maps is neither map predicts which direction we will choose, because that's called our free will, and our free will is not bound by time or space. But both maps have a responsibility of first showing us where we are and basically how to get to where we want to be, whether it be time or space. In other words, the name of the game in the deck of playing cards is actually not really poker and blackjack, even though it brings a lot of revenue for the casinos. But the real name of the game is to be successful in the 4 suits, which means to be successful in your personal emotional life, which is hearts, to be successful with your education and your thinking and planning, that's clubs, to be successful with your money and business, that's diamonds, and to be success spiritually, with your health, that's spades. It's so, I didn't mean to hog up so much.
No, you're doing just fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay?
See, if I had a guest that was just rambling on and not giving me any information, and rarely that happens, but what I do is I whip out the club, and usually maybe it's the 8 of clubs, so I can club them several times and say, look, this radio show here is also about money, so I want to throw in a king of diamonds, and I'll remind them that's who I am. And then we kind of come into a relationship which we can link into, the Queen of Hearts. But in your case, you're pretty much all aces, so keep going.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
No, it's really interesting, and I'll tell you why. Here's what's really funny about this. When I was told by the producer about what it is you do, taking a simple deck of cards, and I'm just going to say this very loosely because I know that's not totally what this is, but that uses them for astrology, I kind of had a smile on my face about the whole thing, because it took me back to when I was in junior high school, and I had a friend of mine who really loved magic. That was his hobby. He really enjoyed that. He was into it, and sometimes I'd go and, we'd go to a magic shop, and he'd buy, the Chinese rings or something like that. But one day he says, come here and sit down for a minute. And he literally took a deck of cards like you're talking about, and he did an astrological reading by laying out the cards, and I was like, well, this is kind of cool. It was different from tarot, that's for sure. And so I said, well, I kind of asked him a little bit, well, how do you do this? And, here's what's funny about doing it this way. And this is astrology, and I know in a way that's sort of what this is, but it isn't at the same time. So I started doing this like with my brothers and laying it out. And what I found fascinating was there was a certain intuition that started coming through me as I was doing it. It's not that I really knew what I was doing, but there was an instinct to it. Sort of like when you play a poker. You're playing the person themselves. The cards are just sort of the messages you were saying earlier. And so I found this funny that for the first time since really junior high school, that somebody was out there doing readings, if you will, using a regular deck of cards, and I just found that pretty fascinating. So,
yes. Well, actually, I've been asked. I've been doing this now for 23 years.
Okay.
And in 23 years, I never cease to be fascinated. I even today, I'm still blown away every time I get to see someone's time map, or when someone is telling me about their time map. What's happened is the time map now is an interactive birth chart at my website. Can I give that out? Can I say
Sure,
my website?
Please.
Okay, the website to go to, for one to see their own time map, is called thepower.org. That's two words, the power. And so what happens is the time map has been so simplified that now we have 8-year-olds that can actually teach people how to do the time map system. It's so simple that what happens is a person purchases their access code, because every time map comes with its own unique access code, and that access code has no limit, it has no expiration to how many times it can be used. But what it does is a time map covers a full year in a person's life from birthday to birthday. So, for example, if someone is 51 years old, then they're going to purchase age 51. If they're 55, they're going to purchase age 55. But and so what happens in the time map system is the time map system shows us exactly by date. In other words, the exact date when and how things are going to change in that person's life, and that's all contingent on which direction the person takes. Why? Because our life is the accumulative result of the choices we make and direction we take. That's what's led to this exact moment. In other words, you made the choice to be a radio show host, I made the choice to be a guest, and all the listeners made a choice to be a listener. And that's what's actually led to this moment. And life is going to continue that way, except now we have this illumination tool, which was the original ancient science intention of the deck of playing cards, was to remove the darkness that surrounds our situations and circumstances and illuminate it, thus putting us at a superior advantage. So in essence, no one, in other words, there's a reason why we use headlights when driving down a dark road. And so whatever that reason is the same exact reason why we need the time map system. Because that's what the time map system does, is it shows us our past, present, and future right there on our computer screen, except our future is still yet to be determined by which way did you go. You see, just because Canada is on a map of the United States does not mean one is going to go to Canada. Just because there's financial success pointing at stockbroker number 1 and financial problems pointing at stockbroker number 2, it's still, which way you go is still, that's a free will decision. It's just that the map has a responsibility of letting us know in advance what to expect before we actually move in that direction. Am I making sense?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, good. See, because what happens is every day of the year has a card that's mathematically assigned to it. So at thepower.org, there's a birth chart, that people can look at for free, and they can look at the card that's corresponding to their birthday and see what their birth card is. Then automatically they're going to want to see the birth card of their significant other, the birth cards of their parents, the birth cards of their children, the birth cards of their best friends, and you'll begin to even see some very interesting patterns there. And then I have a book that's available for sale there that's called All About You, which is a book that explains one's personality characteristics, that explain why we are the way we are, and then it goes on to talk about how we operate on a subconscious level, what are our passions and wants, what drives us and makes us tick, what areas in life are we expanding and growing, what are our lifetime difficulties, our lifetime challenges, with what birthdays are we most compatible, etc. And then I have a new book coming out this fall, which is going to involve another national media tour. Right now I'm talking about the time map system because that urgently needs to get out there. But the book that's coming out in the fall is called The Secret Wisdom of the Ages. And Michael Bernard Beckwith wrote the foreword to the book. He's known. He was popular in a movie called The Secret, and he's the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. And so what the time map system does is, by removing the darkness that surrounds our situations and circumstances, puts us at a superior advantage because we're able to predetermine which way and with whom is leading to what it is we seek to accomplish. Because remember, the name of the game is not poker and blackjack. Not that they're not fun, great games, because they are. Especially considering the fact that there's mathematical systems structured in those games. Just like there's a mathematical system structured in the standard deck of playing cards, except what I can take credit for is not, I didn't invent the deck of playing cards, nor did I invent the ancient science that's rooted in it. All I did was take this ancient science, apply modern mathematics along with modern technology so that there's practical application of it. So the time map system actually comes with these two easy instructions. The first instruction is how to locate people on your map, and so the computer does all the work in both instructions. So to locate people, you just give the computer, just enter the birthday, click go, and the computer comes back with these computer hands pointing to where that person is on your time map. And then the second instruction is, well, which definition to read, because you want to know, well, what does it mean? I see where they are, but what does it mean? So when you move the mouse over to that area, the definition pops out like a balloon telling you what it means. You see, it's so the time map system actually is a convoluted system that has been simplified so that even someone like Homer Simpson, can do it.
No.
No. It's just so necessary. Plus, the time map system is really for truth seekers. See, I'm a truth seeker because, I studied all these scriptures, and the scriptures all aim in that same direction and saying that the truth is what you want. You see, even Jack Nicholson, in the movie, he said, do you want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Right.
What do you mean? You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. But yet, with all due respect, I think we're ready for the truth now. I think that people are fed up with being BS, if you will, being lied to, being deceived by people. In other words, how many times have you heard the investor say, if I would have known that I was going to lose my money, monkeying around with that idiot, I'd have never given him my money, right? Or the lady that says, if I would have known that I was going to have so much grief and, getting involved with him, I'd have never gotten involved. See, I get in the character sometimes. I just get in the character.
We like characters on the program.
Well, what they're both saying is, if I would have seen that I was simply taking the wrong direction in my life, which is what the time map shows us, is what are the directions of our life, then they would not have gone in that direction. They would have gone in the other directions that's supporting what it is that they seek to accomplish. Because, like I said, the name of the game is to succeed in these four areas: emotionally hearts, mentally clubs, financially diamonds, and spiritually spades.
Okay, now here, I want to ask you this question then, Reverend. When we talk about succeeding in each of these areas, what does that look like? Is it different for everybody? Are there parameters, or is it what you really say, this is what I would like to see myself in each of these 3 areas, or 4 areas, excuse me?
That's an excellent question. That's
I mean, think about it. You throw it up there and you get people who play the lottery. Well, they want to be very successful because they believe having more money will bring more happiness, more time freedom, maybe emotional freedom, all these things.
Right.
But anybody who's had a big pile of cash realizes there's a big pile of responsibility that goes along with it, or you can watch it just blow out the window just like the dust. So
yes, what it is to answer your question, it is definitely it's on an individual basis, because every time map is different for every date of birth. You see, in other words, you may have heard the old adage that timing is everything.
Right.
Well, that's proven in the time map system. For example,
and I actually agree with that. I know that many times as I talk with people, and sometimes we'll talk about, when, like, for instance, me being in this business, I consider this education and entertainment all at the same time. Well, entertainment is a hard place for people to be. They take a look at it, they see the stardom, sort of the end result. We'll give an idea, like a Taylor Swift, let's just say. Now, this is a girl that started basically since birth wanting to perform in front of people. It stands to reason she would be successful the way she is this day and age, doing very, very well, and she loves what she does. That's what she wants to do. Now, there are many other people that believe that they want to be doing the same thing. They jump in the ring and they try to go for it. The next thing you know, 5 years goes by, 10 years go by, and the most they've been able to break out, and this is using her as an example, as performers, and they find themselves still playing the smoke-infested, formerly smoke-infested nightclubs or whatever the case is, and they don't see themselves to that level, and then 15 years might go by and they still don't see it happening, and most people usually by 10 years, even 5 years, give up,
Yeah.
And the fact is, when you talk about timing, that's what it really is. There's luck and there's timing, but unless you boldly put yourself out there on the path, and you have to do it in earnest because you're going to be challenged, that you'll never get to see that opportunity, really unfold itself the way it's supposed to. There's the way you expect it to or hope that it will, but then there's the way that it does. Is this a system that kind of addresses it that way?
Absolutely,
Okay.
Because once again, your life and my life is the result of the choices we make and direction we take. Taylor Swift happened to take the right directions leading to what she seeks to accomplish. Mm-hmm. In other words, she for lack of a better word, stumbled into making the right direction. She just naturally did. In other words, she did it without the assistance of a tool. In other words, she's one of the few people that was able to drive in the dark in an obstacle course without using her headlights and make it through without crashing into problems and mistakes. You see, but for the rest of us, it still remains that what's going to happen next is going to be contingent on which direction we choose, because the proverb says that where we end up tomorrow may depend upon whom we meet today. You see, so even the phrase that it says on every time map, it says, make every person you meet a guidepost to your future. Okay. You see, so that what this is a tool, just like when we change a tire, using a jack makes it easier to change the tire, just like this is a tool that makes it easier for us to accomplish what it is that we want. Except a strong point that I think you're making, just even between the lines, is success is subjective, meaning that what's success to you may not necessarily be success to someone else. Like, in other words, if somebody made $100,000 in a day, wow, that's really amazing. But to someone who's already a billionaire, that may not be that big of a deal. That's not success.
That's what they earn when they go to the bathroom.
I heard something funny at the gym today where a guy told me, he says, Rev, he says, I said, I want my paychecks to be so big that they look like phone numbers.
Wow.
I said, may I borrow that? I said, that is one of the coolest lines I ever heard. You know, where your paycheck looks like a phone number.
There you go. Now, Reverend, let's go ahead and talk about this system. Of course, it's been around ancient. You know, you're using the 52 cards in a deck. So you don't have the ambiguity, for instance, of the tarot, for instance.
Yeah.
Now, as you begin to implement the system, now is this something that anyone can learn to use?
Yes, because there's 2 instruction videos at the website, thepower.org, that cover both instructions, totaling 11 minutes.
Okay.
It takes 11 minutes to become a master of the system.
Now, what is the goal of this? Is this a way to kind of time map out your future within, you know, hours, days, weeks, months, years? What is the goal usually when somebody wants to implement this time map system?
The goal of the system is to help people stay on track with the people and things that are supporting what it is that they seek to accomplish, whether it be emotionally, mentally, financially, or spiritually. Because, and then the time map system also provides truthful, reliable answers to some of our most important questions concerning love, family, romance, legal, education, planning, money, business, priority issues, career, residence, or health issues. All of those issues are covered in the time map system.
Okay.
Basically, like I said, whatever your reason is for using headlights when driving down a dark road is the same exact reason why we use the time map system. So, if you ask someone, well, what's the benefit of turning on your headlights? Well, I mean, then there's your answer. You see, because no one makes a mistake because they see that they're making a mistake. In other words, mistakes are, we crash into them because we didn't see it, because we were in the dark. We didn't see it. You see, so that's why we turn on our headlights, number one, so that we can look ahead and see what we're approaching, so that we can better prepare our response for what we're approaching. Okay, another thing, too, is whenever someone is unhappy, it's always going to be for the same fundamental reason. And that fundamental reason is because life is not happening that person's way. In other words, things are not turning out the way they had hoped that they would turn out, or things are not happening the way they want. In other words, you know, that check in the mail didn't come, you know, or this person cheated on me. You know, this is something.
Right.
You know, life is not happening the way we wanted it to. But see, life goes its own way. Life does not go anybody's way. What the time map system does is the time map basically takes the rules that govern existence, the same rules that govern all of life, the universal laws that apply to everyone, and what it does is it puts us at this great advantage, meaning that this way we're not wasting our precious time trying to make something happen that's not there to happen on our time map. Like, in other words, yeah, everybody wants financial success, but your financial success may not be right now. Your financial success may be a year from now or 2 years from now. But still, at least knowing that puts one at a serious advantage where they can start building to where they come into a harm to being congruent with where the cosmic support is around that desire. Whether you know, and then success, for example, can be like some people aren't really looking for financial success because they have financial security, but what they want is they want to have love in their life, or they want to have, or even expand in other types of relationships that involve many of these other issues. It's just that love and money seem to be almost like the predominant, or I should say the most popular thing, because generally in 22 years that I've been, 23 now, the 23 years that I've been doing this, it's like generally people say, Rev, when am I going to get laid and when am I going to get paid? It seemed to be the two most popular questions, right? Actually, this is a G-rated show, right?
That's pretty close to it, yeah.
It's a G-rated. It's PG. Okay, I just turned it into
Sometimes
PG.
we've hit to the G-string level, but, like today, but, it doesn't happen very often, so.
And another thing is that people don't know. They don't know that they go through time periods that originate from their date of birth. In other words, the one thing everyone knows is that things are going to change, but people don't know exactly by date when will they change for you. Mm-hmm. And that's what your time map shows you. It shows you the date that things are going to change, and it shows you how things are going to change based on which way you choose to go. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter how much you want to be financially successful. If it's not there in the cards for you to be successful today, then you're just going to have to you got to accept it, because you have a choice, accept it or not accept it, but whether you accept it or not doesn't change the truthful reality that the time map is revealing to you. Mm-hmm. You see, but at least if someone is interested in financial success, the time map is a guide that one is able to use to predetermine, well then, with whom, which way should I go? You see, so obviously a person is going to go in the direction of the people that are being described as financial success on a person's time map. Mm-hmm. See, same thing like, let's just say someone is involved in a legal issue, okay? And, and you can see, like, you're being sued or something like that. If you're being sued, okay, and you can see that, or your time map says you're going to lose the case, then you can tell your lawyer, let's settle. Let's settle, because that usually when you settle, the penalty will be less than if you drag this out and lose.
Sure.
You see, once again, you're being put at a superior advantage, meaning that we can't control everything, but we can control how we respond to anything. And how we respond to things that happen reveals our level of spiritual awareness or spiritual maturity. The way we respond to things shows where we are in consciousness. You see, so we use this as a tool to keep us at a superior advantage. But now here's the part that really takes this up, what takes this beyond the ability of anything else on earth, which is, you can look at the time map of anybody else. And if you're in a relationship, it's mandatory that you look at the time map of your business partner, you look at the time map of your spouse. Why? Because you can locate yourself on that person's map because you know your own birthday. So you locate yourself on that person's time map, and now you can see yourself from that person's point of view. And see, and there's nothing else on planet Earth that can do that except the time map system at thepower.org. Another thing is, people have often asked me, well, then how does this compare then to numerology and astrology and things like that? And so the answer to that is, the time map system represents the arithmetic. Numerology represents mathematics, and astrology represents algebra, meaning that arithmetic, math, and algebra are not in conflict with each other. It's just that arithmetic gave birth to math, math gave birth to algebra, and algebra gave birth to calculus. And then what does calculus do? Well, calculus will take 7 chalkboards full of equations, okay, using newly discovered laws after arithmetic that further prove arithmetic, meaning that these 7 chalkboards prove that 1 plus 1 equals 2, but that's what arithmetic said in the first place, meaning that the arithmetic can never be outperformed. The time map system cannot be outperformed by any psychic, by any astrologer, by anything, because like I said, just alone, the time map system alone gives us the ability to see ourselves from anybody else's viewpoint. There's no individual and there's no system out there that can do that except this. And by doing that and utilizing that, that puts us at the supreme advantage because we have the bird's eye view of whatever that situation is. So what happens is numerology and astrology, they reflect each other, meaning that neither one can exist without the other, just like inhale can't exist without exhale, and night can't exist without day, but they become one in the deck. You see, because like I said, the deck gave birth to this. In other words, this is the grand mama of them all. the granddaddy of them all, meaning that there's nothing. But see, the reason why it's so imperative that there are those like you who are willing to be an exponent of truth and light by letting everyone know about this, eventually what's going to happen is we're going to finally be able to predetermine when and where earthquakes will happen. And the reason why that's so is because the time map system actually has infinite applications. For now, we're using it as a tool to provide illuminated empowerment. We're using it as a tool to give us illuminated directional guidance so that we can see which way leads to what we want to accomplish. But there's going to be more uses than that. So my whole life is dedicated to maintaining the purity of the teachings so that this remains effective for all the generations to come. The reason why we can't predict earthquakes is actually called Thabiti's theory because it comes from me. Thabiti's theory says you can never solve a calculus equation without applying the fundamental rules of arithmetic. And so the time map system is the arithmetic and seismology is the calculus. You see, and so what I'm saying is eventually, like I really believe that we may be 5 to 10 years away from being able to literally predict when and where earthquakes will happen. Why is this important? Because people suffer and die in these things because there's no forewarning. The danger of an earthquake is directly proportional to where we are when one of them hits. And so therefore, it's like that's what this is all about, but it's all happening in stages. You see, meaning that this is already exploding in popularity. The reason why the time map system is so successful and will always be successful is because it's universally verifiable and mathematically exact. And it applies to anyone who has a date of birth and goes through 7 days a week, meaning that there's no one exempt from the rules that govern existence. In other words, even Bill Gates, with all the money he has, he can't buy the 25th hour in a day. You see, because the universal rule don't permit that. The universal rule puts us all in the same boat and doesn't care if we're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Christian. It makes no difference. It's that same rule that makes everyone sit on the toilet. See, when everyone sits on the toilet, remember, what's making you sit there doesn't care what we think or believe. It doesn't seek our approval or permission to operate the way it does. If it wants to put a tornado over there, an earthquake over there, it doesn't say, Daniel, will you be okay if I rip up that neighborhood with a tornado? I don't want you to be mad at me.
Right.
Are you okay with it? You understand what I mean? In other words, it does what it wants to do. You see, but the one thing that it cannot do is it cannot violate its own law. And so therefore, the more we learn to understand how the universe works, the easier it becomes to improve the way we live. I mean, basically, the Internet and cell phones is nothing but an advanced understanding of electricity.
Now, what I would like you to do, because we've certainly gotten in detail what the time map is, let's talk about how it works by, I guess we could maybe use me as an example. How would that be? Okay,
the way, using you as an example, and I say this with humble respect to you, that I want to be cautious about trying to do a time map reading to listeners because they can't see what we're talking about.
Right. Okay.
But I can still say some. I'm going to tell you some things because I do have your time map in front of me. So for starters, but the other thing is that what's really important is this: no one, and I mean no one, no one can predict which direction you will take. I can't lay out a map of the United States and predict that on Thursday you're going to go north or south. I can't predict that because that's called your free will. And any psychic or any intuitive artist out there that tries to predict the free will of an individual is a fraud, and you can tell them Reverend Thabiti said so. Okay? Because, no one can predict the free will. So for me to say, oh, well, this is what's going to happen to you, I can't say that necessarily. What I can tell you is I can tell you that you are currently in a time period, you're in what's known as your Saturn period, because every time period is given a name, just like every day of the week is given a name that's named after the heavens.
Right.
That's why we have Saturn Day, we have Sun Day, we have Moon Day. You see, because time is named after the heavens, because time is determined by the movement of the heavens.
Okay.
You see what I mean? Okay, so your Saturn period, which started on April the 18th, there is a period that you're in right now, and you will be in this time period until, according to your time map, until June the 9th. And then on June the 9th, you're going to be in what's called your Uranus time period. But there is something that I can tell you right now, and that is what I did was I can't tell you who these people are on your map because only you know who they are, okay? But what I can tell you is that what I did was I entered your birthday so that we could locate you on your own map. Okay, and so and there's something that points at you right now, which is this influence of the Eight of Spades. The Eight of Spades is pointing at you right now on your own map, and what that Eight of Spades means is it means spiritual force, power to overcome any and all obstacles. It means it means overcoming any kind of career, health, or residential setback. In other words, this Eight of Spades in this position means that you'll overcome anything regardless of its seeming difficulty. You have a tremendous amount of cosmic support that's pointing at you right now. In other words, you have more power at your fingertips than you may be aware of. You are actually more powerful right now than you know yourself to be. Okay? Another thing, now I see something back here in the past, though, like right around Thanksgiving and Christmas, where this is either a visit to or from loved ones, that's pointing at you again on your map, but there's also like this separation, divorce type of influence that's pointing there. I don't know anything about your personal life, but that influence was definitely there. But this is in the past. But something that I want to prepare you for is between July 31st and September 21st, what you have pointing at you is the Ten of Hearts, and it's twice emphasized, meaning that it's a double strong influence. The Ten of Hearts means involvement with lots of people. It means increased popularity. It means increased social activity, the presence of many, many people. So whatever it is that you're working on, whatever it is that you're up to, I'm just letting you know in advance, brace yourself, okay, that during the month of August and the month of September, you'll see that your popularity has really grown, especially it maybe involving people that are more like at a distance, people that are far away. Another thing that I see is a successful outcome of something that you're planning during that particular time as well, and that you will also find yourself as being a source of major support to others during that same time. So these are things that I can tell you, but there's a tremendous amount of more information here, except you have to input the birthday of the person so that they can be located, so you can see where they are on your time map, and you can see what the experience will be if you continue moving in their direction with your involvement. You see, because your life is going to be the result of the choices you make or direction you take. In order to make a choice or in order to go in a direction involves movement. Albert Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves. You see, so our movement, though, is happening through this time-space continuum, except space is where we are and time is when we are. And these two things must coexist or we don't exist, according to Einstein. Okay? Let me see. What is the status of your love life? If you don't mind broadcasting that on, are you in a relationship? Not in a relationship?
Yeah, no, I've been married now. Let's see. Well, we've been together going on 11 years now, and
okay.
Yeah. We married back in, I think it was 2007.
did you travel over Thanksgiving and Christmas because you got to in other words, it says on your time map, a visit to or from loved ones, and that's during Thanksgiving and Christmas is pointing at you. In other words, yeah, that's what, and like I said, it's pointing at you. So therefore, that I can say, you see, because that's not necessarily a direction you're taking, but what it is it's like, what is the cosmic influences that are present in your life? In other words, because it's normal operation for someone to enter their own birthday and not show up on their map at all, which just simply means that there's not anything that's pointing directly at you. Right. Everything is pointing at everyone who surrounds you. Everything is pointing at all of the potentials, as far as our directional choices go. Okay, so on June 9th is when you'll enter your next time period, and there's a lot of things there. One of the things that I see is an influence that says arriving on top of major issues that involves like a smoothing out of financial matters, such as a collection or repayment of debt, a smoothing out of financial matters, or even taking on more financial responsibility, but doing it means that it's leading somewhere towards your own self-mastery. But once again, that's a direction available on your map. I also see that there's an emotional detachment that points at you, meaning that after June 9th, during the month of June, there's likely that you may sever a relationship or cut. In other words, it means an emotional detachment. Someone could move away, that is, that live next door to you or has worked for you or something along those lines. But I do see that there. See, because this is your time map, the only person who can interpret your time map is you, because you're the one who's living this date of birth, and you're the one who will be able to extract which definition is in context with your experience. You see, so in other words, the two things that a person has the basic understanding a person has to have in order to be a grand master at using the time map system is, first you have to understand, how does a map work? Well, a map shows us where we are and shows us what will happen, but the map does not predict which way we will go. So if you understand that, then the same thing applies to a time map. And then a dictionary, one has to understand, well, how does a dictionary work? How a dictionary works is like this. I'll say, Daniel, you have a right to understand this system. And you say, well, what does it mean to have a right? So when we look up the word right in the dictionary, it has a lot of definitions. It says, number one, opposite of left as in right and left. The second definition says opposite of wrong as in right and wrong. The next definition says a privilege that can never be taken away from you. Well, that's what it means to have a right to something. You see, so what happened was we ignored the first two definitions, even though they're truthful definitions, but they're not in context with how we're using the word. So in the time map system, one is provided with about with about three, maybe four definitions, but the person using the map knows what definition applies because they're the ones who's living the experience. They're the ones who knows what the context of their relationship with Bob is, what their relationship with Sally is, what their relationship is with their accountant or their lawyer. You see, so we have our clients range from, we have celebrities and high-level executives to college students and housewives that use this system because it's universal. It's universal. There's no belief required, meaning that a map of the United States doesn't need to be believed. In other words, you're going to go in one of these directions whether you use the map or not. You see, and the time map is the same way. Whether you choose to go the right way or the wrong way in your life, well, that's up to you. In other words, it's up to you to use headlights when driving down a dark road. You don't have to, but it sure does help if you do, and it makes the drive a heck of a lot easier and safer if you do, because no one makes a mistake because they see that they're making a mistake. Actually, maybe that's not true, because I have a client that told me that that how the time map helped him was he was under tremendous family pressure because he wanted to make an investment, and his brother-in-law just happened to be a stockbroker. But it said on his time map that he would have financial disappointment if he does business with the brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. So what he did was he reduced the amount of money to invest, you see, because he knew, look, it's not going to work, and it didn't work. You see, so the point that I'm making is the time map system is always designed to put us at advantage regardless of what the situation or circumstance is, meaning that if you can see that you're moving in the direction of the mistake, you can at least minimize how much mistake it costs you.
Mm-hmm.
You see, another thing that happened, which was really interesting, now this was about 20 years ago, where she was a lady, and she saw that in the next time period, she has a new relationship with someone identified as a 3 of clubs. And so, sure enough, within like 3 or 4 days into that time period, she meets this 3 of clubs, and she's just ecstatic. She's just so excited and everything. And about 2 weeks later, that relationship didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And so now she's really frustrated, totally like upset at me, called me everything but a child of God. And so then about 3 weeks later, she meets another guy who also happens to be a 3 of clubs, and I believe they're still married to this day.
Oh.
You see, so that's why I say that if you want to completely eliminate the possibility of any error or mistake, it is imperative to look at the time map of the other person. Locate yourself so that you can see that both time maps are saying the same thing at the same time. In other words, if you're going into business with a potential business partner because it says financial success on your map, look at his map and see if it says financial success on his map pointing at you, that's a lock. That's a universal cosmic law guarantee. There's nothing that can stop it. All you have to do is go in that direction. You see, and this can be, like I said, there's infinite applications. And, I didn't mean to be this dominant one-way conversation with you.
No, it's just
so
being
sorry.
sure that you thoroughly explain what's going on here. Otherwise, I just kind of say, well, I don't know that our listeners are getting it, and it's been very interesting. I was going to ask, is there a website that people can find out more about this?
Yes, it's thepower.org. And we have thepower.com just in case someone types that by mistake. Mm-hmm. If you go to thepower.com, you'll see my picture there, but click on, to get your time map. Time maps cover a full year. It's less than $30 for that full year. We have VIP access accounts for people that really want to get a lot of use out of this. We have corporations that use the time map system for team building, meaning that they're able to put the right people together by looking at what their compatibility will be. In fact, when eHarmony.com and Match.com finds out about the time map system, watch out, because it's going to totally revolutionize what they do, because people will be able to see in advance, are we compatible or not? Mm-hmm. People can use it. I've seen the time map system prevent so many suicides because people sometimes just don't know, look, you're just in a turbulent period right now, but it's going to end in 4 days. Mm-hmm. You got 4 more days, and you're in a brand new period, and everything's going to start turning around. I've seen divorces prevented. You see, because people could just see, look, we're just not it's just not a compatible time for us. So let's wait till we get on the other side of this time period.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this then, Reverend. When they go to your website, which was again
The Power, two words, The Power. Like
thepower.org.
Who's got the power? You do.
And there is where they'll learn how the time map system works, so they'll be able to apply it to themselves.
Yes, because it comes with there's two simple instructions. Like I said, an 8-year-old can do it.
Okay.
And those 2 instructions are covered by 2 videos, and if you watch both videos, it will take 11 minutes of your time.
Okay, great. Well, we've certainly enjoyed having you here on the program, and it's interesting to know that there is something out there that, again, reminds me of an experience I had back in junior high school, but certainly it'll help people, hopefully, guide them a little bit better so that life doesn't feel so random to the point where they feel that it's happening to them, but they're actually engaging in creating life for themselves. And thank you so much for joining us on the program to share all this with our listeners today.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And again, the website is thepower.org, where you can find out more about that. We want to thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis, and remember, live your day past halfway.